All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back. Today on the stream, we are going to be trying or creating a new application, basically tentatively titled Shopify Stock Tracker. Obviously, that's not going to be the brand name or the domain or anything like that, just a placeholder for now. But the idea is to kind of take some of the code that we did for the Thox site, which is basically Rapid and I have kind of given up on for now because it's so specialized. What I want to do is I want to take a bunch of the code, like the backend code from the Thox code base, and transition it and pivot it into a site where anyone for any kind of product on a Shopify site, obviously, can request to be notified when that product comes back in stock. So basically, you'll provide us the URL for the product page that you want to watch, and we will consistently monitor that URL for that product being in stock, and then we'll send you an email if we see that it's in stock. So that's kind of the why. The what we're going to be doing today is we're going to write a bunch of tests. So like allowing the user to specify the product page. We want to check if it's a Shopify site. And the idea is we'll use some kind of Laravel validator. I've never written one myself before, so this is going to be a bit of an interesting dive into that. So I'm going to be learning there. And so what we'll do is we'll check for the product URL .json, just like we did with Thox. We'll check for the Shopify specific sitemap to make sure that it's actually a Shopify site. And then if it passes the validation, we'll check the site every however many hours and notify users if it's now available. So one of the other things we'll want to do is we'll want to make sure that we're using Cloudflare Turnstile to prevent bots from using our page to DDoS other sites, because that's a really easy way to get ourselves banned from Shopify is if we allow someone else to hammer their site by doing the validation on a regular basis. So we can do things like, caching these lookups, right? I can add this right here. Should cache requests without any query params for, we could even say like a week, because it's unlikely that a site, once they get validated, is going to change providers within that next week kind of thing, right? And so the other thing is for potential revenue sources is we'll allow free accounts to get their products checked once per day. And then paid accounts, we can check them, let's say, once every 15 minutes or something. And obviously those numbers can be adjusted. We'll see how people feel about it, but it's kind of a nice, it sounds about right kind of thing. The other thing we're going to want to make sure of is that when we actually get to the the landing page stuff, that we have some good SEO. It's something that I've not been good at. I'm still not good at, but it's something that I really want to make sure that we're focusing on, because I really think that this is one of these is a simple concept but has a lot of potential. And so I think with enough SEO that we can do some pretty cool things with it. So what I've done so far is I've created a new Laravel app just called Shopify Stock Tracker, and that's where we're at right now. So if we go into Vim and we go into our .env, okay, so that looks fine. Shopify Stock Tracker, yep, root. I'm just using the local database right now, so we'll go art migrate, and we will make it bigger here. Yes, I'd like to create the database. And okay, so we have a working database, and we have a simple Laravel app. So the first thing I want to do is I want to create a test. And actually, now that I'm saying this, let's just take a look at our stubs. So is it stubs? Let's just go like stub publish. Okay, so art stub publish. One day I will learn how to spell, but today is not that day. So if we go into our stubs and we look at our test, it's probably, so it's using the PHP unit style. So let's go to just normal pest style tests, because I did create this with the pest runner. So now if we go art, make, test, and so what are the first things we want? What are the thing that we care about? So I guess a product, art, make, test, product, test. And so if we go into product test, we can hide that. Let's just close these other tabs and let's create our first test. So what do we care about? So it has a URL, right? We want to make sure that this thing has a URL. And I'm going to make these all to-do tests right now, and then we can go back and actually start writing the test. Right now, I just want to focus on what are the concepts that we need to make sure that this thing has or does, kind of thing. So a product has a URL. What else do we care about? It has a last seen in stock date. What else? We're probably going to need the product's name. So to do, okay, got that wrong. So we'll just use this one for now. It has a name. Oops. To do. What else do we care about? So it has a name, it has a URL, it has last seen in stock date. Do we care about anything else other than that? Let's just take a look at our notes again. So what are we actually checking? So we're checking that it's a Shopify site. We're checking that it's, so these are both checking to make sure that it's Shopify. Those are just validations, so we don't really need to track that. Specify a product page. If it passes a validation, check the site every X hours and notify user if it's now available. Has a last, so we want to also track individually of the last seen in stock date. We want to say it has a last checked date, because the checked date might not necessarily be in stock. I think that's probably good. Just thinking here. Passes validation, check our site every blah, blah, blah. So every interval, and notify a user if it's now available. Use Cloudflare turn style to prevent bots from using our page. Yeah, that's fine. Free accounts, that's more for the user side. So I think this is good for our product. So what we can do is let's create a before each for our tests. And this, product, yep. That's going to complain because we don't have a product, which is good. So we can make our model, make model product, and we want a migration and a factory. Yeah. So let's import this. Oh, actually this is wrong. Or maybe that's another way to write factories, but that's not how I do them. So we'll do product. Oops. Use app model product. That's correct. Okay. So undefined type app models product. Am I app models product? I think this is just, let's try this again. Product test. Okay, yeah, it's fine now. It's just an issue with the linter. Okay, so we want to say expect this product URL to be string. It's kind of right. We actually want to make sure that it is URL because Pest will let us do this. So let's get rid of, oops. And try this test. This is going to fail because it doesn't have anything. So let's go into our product factory. Let's get rid of that. Definition is going to be return URL is a fake. Faker or fake? Try this. Undefined function. There we go. So, column not found. Okay, that's fine. Product table. And let's add the URL table. And now this should work. Okay, cool. So we have a passing test. So it has a URL. Now we're just going to do the same thing. Expect last seen in stock date. We want it to be a date. It can be null because it may have never been seen in stock, so that's okay. So if we go run this test again, it's going to, oh, right, it's still marked as to do, so we can get rid of that. Okay, to be date does not exist in null. Okay, that's fine. So we're going to say last seen in stock date. Yep. And table timestamp. Last seen in stock date. Method to be date does not exist in string. Last seen in stock date. This product. Let's just dump that out since it should definitely be creating the last seen in stock date, unless I'm using the wrong fake helper. Last seen in stock date. Oh, right, because we want fake date time. There we go. Undefined method date time to be date. Is it to be timestamp? Okay, let's go look at the pest documentation. PestPHP. Get started. Expectations. So to be URL, to be UID, to be numeric. Some of you may have already seen what I'm looking for. To be file, to be numeric. Date, time. All right. I was sure that was a thing, but to be, let's see what we got here for options. No, file, final, nothing. I believe timestamps are stored as ints. To instance of time. There we go. Okay. Next one. It has a name. Expect this product name not to be null. We also want to say to be string. Okay, so this is going to fail again, of course. So we want to add this to the factory name equals fake name. Yep. And let's put this first thing here, table string name. Cool, that one passes. And expect this product last. Yes, so that's the one we want. And of course, this is going to last. Oops. Last checked date. All right. So if I haven't totally broken this, this should now work. Cool. Okay, so we have this idea of a product, which is good, because now we can when we create the users table, we'll actually be able to have a many-to-many relationship between the users that exist on the app and the products, and that means that multiple people can track the same product, and we only have to check a product one time, and then we just see who wants to be notified by it, and then we just send an email to each of them. So let's go like this. Next thing we want to do is we want to basically create an idea of actually no, we're not done here. So we want to say so where do we want to put this? I'm just thinking about the validation. So this is really the product concept table. This is not the adding products, although because we're using feature tests, it really can encapsulate both unit tests and product tests, even if that's not best practice. This is going to be such a small app that including all those kind of tests in one place is not the worst thing in the world. So let's do this. How do we want to say this? It can only add Shopify products. So what we're going to do here is we're going to actually start defining the endpoints for this API, like the web endpoints. And so let's go like, actually, no, we're going to do this in Livewire so we can use the Livewire validation. And so we can do this. Livewire, yep. We want to test, add, what do we want to call this? Add product, sure. Call. So we're going to have to, we're going to say call. Add Shopify product, yep. And we're going to pass in the following parameters. We're going to give it a, actually, let's go like this. So it's going to need the URL, pardon me. So we're going to pass in shopifystore.com/products123, sure. We're going to give it a name. Actually, no, we'll fetch the name from the product page. And then let's expect product this, I think the count is probably the wrong thing to be testing because we're already creating one in them before each. So let's go like this. Let's make a separate test. So art make test manage products test. Manage products test. Yep. Okay, and so we will need to use livewire. And we will also product. I don't know why it's not auto-completing. Use app models product. Yes. I think that might be because we're not using the IDE helper from Barry. So let's go get that. Barry VDH IDE helper. Pardon me. Okay, and we'll add that. We will, as soon as this finishes, art IDE helper generate, I think. Cool. And models, I think, is the other one. Yes. Cool. Okay. So we can delete that. Okay. And so now we are going to have a failing test, which is good. TDD and all that. So we're going to say art make livewire manage products. Manage products. Yep. Okay, cool. So we're going to say manage products. And first thing we're going to do is have a, no, we don't want the mount method. We want a function called add, just call it add product. And we'll change our test to reflect that because we're never going to, this is only going to be for Shopify, at least for the very near or very medium future at least. So we'll say add product and we want to take in a URL. And so right now we are just going to hard code the values. So we'll say product class. Now it's working. Cool. So we can create that. Of course, we need other things like the name. I'm just going to hard code this just to get our test to pass. And last seen in stock date now, sure. And last check date equals now. Yes. What are we not doing? Unexpected. Oh, this is going to return a void. In fact, let's make this look a little nicer. And obviously, we're not always going to hard code this, but just for now, let's just see if this test passes. Do we get a product? Add URL to fillable property. Right. Okay. So this is Laravel's. Oh my goodness, mass assignment protection, protecting us from allowing someone to just send random fields. So we want to say fillable equals URL, name, last seen in stock date, and last check date. Cool. So now we run this. Cool. So we have a product component that is adding a product to our database. That's awesome. have some water here. So really what we want though is when they call this add product, we don't want to have the logic in this component, right? Like the component should still be fairly thin. It should just call some kind of helper method on a class that we're going to build. And so let's go back here, and I guess we don't have the ability to do that. So we're just going to create a new folder in app, and we're going to say Shopify. Sure. No, I do not want to create a file called Shopify. I want to create a folder called Shopify. And then we're going to create a file in here called fetch product data.php. So first thing we can do is that, and then we're going to call namespace app Shopify. Yep. Class fetch product data. And so we're not going to take it in a constructor because we don't need to. For right now, we will just go like this. Function, and this is going to go fetch. And actually, let's make it a little more generic. So Shopify product data. Yep. So we want to fetch product data. And what is this going to return? For right now, we'll return nothing. Why is that unexpected? I'm pretty sure that's how you define a class. Oh, okay. Had a leading slash there. Okay. So what do we want to do when we call fetch? We want to check if the site is Shopify, first of all. We want to, so yeah, if not, return, yep. Check if the product exists, yep. If not, return. And then we want to retrieve data from JSON endpoint. Products JSON endpoint. Okay, so let's write some tests for this. So we're going to say make test Shopify product data. So actually, you know what? Let's remove this because this is going to be a straight up unit test. Actually, no, it's not. Okay, we're going to say Shopify product data. RM, there we go. Shopify product data test. Cool. So we're going to, before each, we want to create an instance of that, the product data class. So we're going to say this data equals new product data. And this should be use app Shopify product data. Yep. And it can fetch data from Shopify. Yes. And so we want to say this data, fetch, yeah, to be, it's going to need, so for fetching the data, so we want it to be, we'll call this true, so it should be returning an array. Is array. Okay, so fill the string and the false is true. Yep. because this is going to need to return the array. And then right now, we're just going to make this test pass. And we're going to say return an empty array. It's going to make our test pass. Okay, so the next thing we're going to want is to expect that this data fetch name, and we're going to have to create some fake data for this, but that's okay. We're just going to call this, to be example product. Perfect. Okay, so this is going to fail. That's fine. Cool. It doesn't have a key called name. That's okay. So let's just go to Divinity, our favorite keyboard shop. Let's go look at a product. Sure, this one. And it's going to be product title. Okay, so when we call fetch, we're going to need the URL. Okay, and so check if this site is Spotify. We're gonna do this backwards, because right now we're just gonna do the happy path, and as we go through, we're gonna find more cases where we have to add the bad path. So retrieve data from JSON's endpoint. So we're gonna say, oh my goodness. We're gonna say response equals HTTP. Use the facade. Get URL. Yep. And this is going to be a JSON product. And so we can say, what do we want to call this? Let's just call this like data equals that. Pardon me. And we don't even need to do that if we're not there yet. So we're going to call data equals blah. And we're going to say name equals response title. I believe that's what it's called. Yes, response title. Okay, and then it's going to no. Okay, it's not going to complain. Perfect. So again, we're not passing a fetch. So let's call this URL equals Shopify products. Yep. And we're going to fetch URL. Okay, and so this is still going to fail because we have no fake data. Yeah, it's saying unable to get local issuer certificate. Okay, so that's fine. What we need to do is we need to fake out our product fetch. So we're going to say, actually, we're going to be using this a lot. So let's put this on its own. This URL, yes. And we're going to change this to this URL. And now what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're faking out the HTTP facade so that we don't actually make any real web calls because we're going to feed it a bunch of fixture data. So HTTP fake, and we also want to make sure that prevent stray requests is on so that we can't accidentally send traffic to a host that we don't mean to. So we want to say use eliminate support facades HTTP. Oh my goodness, this keyword is driving me crazy. Okay, so if we let's close it here. If we run this test, we're going to say don't have a matching fake. Yep, there we go. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to get the raw data here. And we are going to create fixtures, and we're going to say, what do we want to call it? Just product123.json. Sure. We will paste that in. Okay. Don't care about the generator. That's fine. It's still legit. So what do we want to say? If if we are testing this exact URL, what we want to say is, paste that in. And it's going to, we're going to send a fake HTTP response. Yep. With, actually, we don't want to send that. We want to do a file. Is it, I can never remember if it's HTTP, is it JSON? That allows us to just bring in the contents of a JSON. Let's take a look. Laravel HTTP tests. There is a testing JSON API. No, okay, so we want the HTTP helper. HTTP responses, maybe? JSON responses. Yeah, that's not what we're looking for. Yeah, this is not exactly what I'm looking for. Available assertions. No, we want... Is there a file facade? I don't think so. Okay, we're going to do it the way that I know works, and I can always go back and refactor. And say file, get contents. Eventually I will make this into a, I wonder if we can do base path, base path fixtures products, and I know that's not the right file name. It's going to be product. What did we call it? Products 1, 2, 3. Okay, so in theory, what should happen is anytime our tests try to reach out to this URL, it should respond with the contents of that JSON file that we just created. So let's take a look here. Okay, so undefined array key title. Okay, let's take a look at 1, 2, 3. Oh, product title. Okay, so this should be response. And this should be an object now, so we should say response product title. Close that. Go back to our product here. Attempting to read property product on array. Okay, so we do have to use the array notation. Fine. So we're going to say product title. Too few arguments to function. 0 passed, online, exactly 1 expected. What am I doing wrong here? Fetch string URL. Fetch. Oh. Oh my goodness. Okay, so this should undefined array key name. Yeah, that would help to return the correct property there. Okay. What else we got? Okay, so it's the wrong. That's fine. So we're gonna go products 1, 2, 3, and we're just gonna call this example product. Cool. So with that, this test should now pass. Cool. And we now have our data fetcher, which is good. So we can delete that. So the next thing is check if the product exists. So we're first going to want to check to see if this URL is a 404, for example, right? So the let's see. How do we want to do this? Check if the product exists, because we're assuming the URL here is the JSON version, but it's not going to be the JSON version that's going to be passed in there. We're going to be passing in the product page. So what I mean by that is if we look at what they're going to be sending us, they're going to send us let's go to shorter ones that actually fits on the page here. Of course, this one isn't going to fit either. Is there anything that's small? Of course not. Okay, well, anyways, what's going to happen is they're going to feed us this product URL, right? So it's just the Ninjutsu Sora 4K Super Light Gaming Mouse. That is the end. But what we need to do is we need to add the JSON onto the end of it to get this this information. So what we're going to do is we're going to go, no, don't want to do that. We're going to say this is going to be the JSON response. And why I'm doing it that way is because what we're going to do is we're going to first say try response. We just want to get the URL, yeah, and we want to catch. I think it's invalid valid URL exception, I think. Yeah. We want to how do we want to handle this? If it's not a valid URL, what do we want to do? Because this is just going to be called by this manage product. So if it returns nothing, then we'll just say that's fine. So we're going to return a blank array. Okay, so we don't even need to save that, because then if it is a valid URL, we're going to append .json to it. Okay, so what we're really going to say is I'm going to yank this. We're going to paste that again. So let's go back to this one, and let's just go with view page source, because we want to copy the HTML just in case we ever need it. Let's add that as a fixture as well. So fixtures, add products 1, 2, 3. Sure. Okay. And products 1, 2, 3 .html. Right, because we're going to send back the HTML if they don't pass us a file extension, which is kind of the normal behavior of a request like that. And if we're including the 123.json, or sorry, if we're including the JSON, it should return the JSON. let's just make sure we didn't break any tests here. Cool. All right. So let's see. If we, so first thing we want to do is we want to write a test. So we're going to say, I'm going to say it returns an empty array if the product data is not found. So what we want to do here is we want to say expect this data fetch. We're going to make a random URL here. HTTP invalid.url, just to make it clear that what we're doing here to be empty. Attempted to request. Oh, right. Okay. So now I'm curious. Let's go like HTTPS invalid URL. Yes, that's good. So we're throwing a 404, which is the important part here, because actually, let's be even more explicit so that we don't get confused when we come back to this in 6 months and say, attempted to invalid URL.json, right? Yeah. Makes sense. Yank, paste. Trying to access array offset on null. Okay, so that's good. So we want to, again, we should be doing some more error checking here to make sure that it's a valid, that the JSON is a valid URL as well. Okay, so we'll just yank this and we will say get URL, .json. Fine. Okay, and so now that might tell us that we actually have a broken test. Okay, so trying to access, so it's still getting through. So that invalid URL exception is not the one that we're looking for. So let's take a look at, actually let's just go into Tinker, Art Tinker, and let's just go HTTP get HTTPS shop.com/real.url. Syntax. Oh. That's interesting. I would have expected it to throw some kind of error. Request exception. Okay. It's closer to what we want. So let's not connection exception. Okay, that's still not what we're looking for. We're looking for like what's the error we get with a 404? Let's try one of my sites and see what it says. So maybe Microsoft is doing weird stuff. Stubsquad.com broken URL.html. So it's not throwing any kind of error. That's kind of unfortunate. Okay, let's go take a look at the Laravel HTTP facade, HTTP client. Okay, so error handling. If response failed. Okay, so that's what we're really looking for is, okay, so let's go response equals equals that. And so we're going to say if response status is not 200, yeah, no, it's fine. We're going to do the same thing here. Okay, so that should be good. This should now pass. Cool. Okay, so just to kind of recap what we did there. Basically, we're just looking at the response code, and if it's not 200 because this is a GET request, there shouldn't be any other codes. Like, we're not posting any data, we're not doing any of that weird stuff. We're just saying, is this this URL that we requested, is it real? Okay, so check if the products exist. Okay, that's done. Check if the site is Shopify. Okay, and so the way we're going to do that is Shopify has a very specific way that they create their sitemaps. So if we go to sitemap, that's not the right thing, .xml. So you can see that there's this, the first one is always this, and it's always in this format. It's sitemap products1.xml and then question mark from and to. So what we can do is we can use this very specific formatting to get a good indicator of whether or not this is a Shopify site. And this is the same thing we were doing with Thok. So what we will do is we will first, so let's go like this. If this site, not this, check for Shopify site, return, and then we want to implement this. So we're going to say function check for Shopify site, and this is going to return a Boolean. And it's going to take in the URL. So the first thing we need to do is they're going to be giving us a URL, and we can use PHP's parse URL helper method to kind of deconstruct the URL, because they're going to give us a whole path, right? Like, it's going to be like the scheme, the domain, all the folder paths and the extension, possibly like with the variant query string and stuff. But all we care about is the scheme and the domain. So what we want to say is parse URL. It's almost like it knows what I'm trying to do. Okay, that's good. And so let's just DD out what we get for the URL here. Okay, and we want to pass in the URL. Okay, so we get the scheme and the host. Okay, so let's say it. Actually, you know what? We should probably do one other thing here. So let's say returns of product. The product data is not found. Just thinking that probably means that we don't even need this. Yeah, I'm good with getting rid of that for now. Okay, so we want to say it returns an empty array if the site is not a Shopify site. Expect this data fetch GP not Shopify.com, sure, to be empty. Okay, and so right now we're just returning these empty arrays. In fact, when we get further along, what I'd like to do is in these arrays, I'd like to actually have like an error code so that we can actually show like an intelligent error on the screen for the user. So it would say something like, this is not a Shopify site, rather than just being like, we couldn't fetch the data, without any like useful information about why, right? So right now, this is not the end state. This is just kind of like the intermediate. I just want to get this generally working, and then we can go and tweak it later. Okay, so we want to check for the Shopify site, and we want to say, now I believe there's a better way. Okay, maybe there's not. What I want is, okay, so if component parameter is omitted, okay, so what we really want then is we want to say, pardon me, scheme equals parse URL scheme. Yep. We want to say host is the PHP URL host. Yep. And then what we want to do is we want to say response equals HTTP. We're going to have to construct this ourselves. So we're going to say get. Let's go like Shopify base host, we'll call it. Okay, and so we'll say scheme host. So we're going to say base scheme equals, oops, yes. And then return response status equals 200. And actually, no. So now check for Shopify site. So base host dot sitemap dot XML. Shopify or sitemap URL. Yep. Even simpler, sitemap URL. Yep. Okay, so it's going to parse the URL. It's going to create the sitemap URL. It's going to try and get it. And if, okay, and then there's actually one more thing we want to do. So let's see. So we have this URL, or this sitemap now, and we want to search for this sitemap products 1. So let's say preg match, all of that. Yes, that's fine, because we're going to change this. So we're going to say loc we're going to say dot star don't hate me. We're going to go like this, and we're going to say sitemap product 1.xml. Okay, and so if, how do we want to do this? So it returns this matches array, and actually let's match all, whatever. And so we're going to say return is set matches 0, because the matches, you know what, let's go like this. Okay, so first of all, this should fail because we don't have a matching fake. Yeah. And so we're going to go like this. Sitemap.xml. And we will copy this one. Oops. And let's create our fixture, sitemap.xml. Okay, so this is a working sitemap now. So if we go back here, we should have a working fake. Not Shopify. Oh. Invalid URL.json. Yeah. Not shopify.com. Right, so this should really be invalid.url. Okay, so it's returning nothing. If we check this one. Okay, so it is finding it. So if matches 1. Okay. So let's go like this. Return is set. In fact, let's go is empty. Just empty. That one passed. That one passes. Perfect. Okay, so we have working Shopify checks now. That's good. And so, okay, so check for Shopify site. So this is going to check that stuff first. So if not, so I think we should actually start worrying about like what we're going to do here. So let's go status equals error and message equal provided site not a Shopify site. Yep. Error. Should be message. Status equals error. Right. Let's see if this works now. It's been a while since I've tested the contents of arrays. Okay, good. So we'll do the same thing with the others here then, and we'll say status is error, message could not fetch product data. Status is, we want to return our own error, and the message cannot fetch product data. Oh, right. Returns an empty array if the product data is not found. So this should actually be the correct URL, just the... okay, so we want to say this URL. Okay, so returns an empty array if the product returns an... Well, let's fix these first. Error. Okay, so they go to a Shopify store. So let's go like yank that. Broken product. Okay, cannot fetch product data. Okay, so good. What it can fetch data from Shopify, that works. Returns an error, and can fetch data. So what I really want to do is we're going to have a data property on that array, and so again, this is going to fail, right? Because there's no key called data. And so we're going to say status is going to be, if we get to this point, status is success. And then data is going to be the array of data we get back from this. Cool. So now this should pass again. Cool. So what else do we want to do? We're checking if it's a Shopify site. And so I think this is a good first pass. The only thing else we need to do is we need to get the in stock status, right? Because right now we're just fetching the base data to see if the product exists, but we're not actually checking the status of it, right? So let's do some refactoring here first. So is there anything we can really refactor without doing a bunch of stuff? I'm going to say probably not. Check for Shopify site. So let's do this. So let's say if not this, check for product data. Yep. And don't need all that. So what we're going to do is yank this stuff. And let's go return. Unexpected public. Okay, so we need to get rid of this. Should just be checking if it's a 200. So this should be an OK refactor. Let's just run all of them. Okay, I don't know why it's not running all of them. I don't know why my tests aren't running. So let's restart Vim here. Update my plugins. Let's do this one more time. Product test. Not this one. We want manage products test. This should still work. Yep. We want to go into last. Apparently, I'm taking crazy pills. The last Shopify product data test. Shopify product data test. That's what we're looking for. Okay, so this should still work. Yep, this should still work, and this should still work. Okay. Product data. Okay, so we have these two error messages, and that's that. So now we want to check. Again, I'm just gonna. Nope, don't want that. If not this product in stock. Return. Okay, so let's actually put this. We're going to need the data from there because we're assuming, okay, so right now we know that the URL exists. We now have the data from it. So we actually want to pass in this JSON response to whatever we're dealing with in a minute. And okay, so here's the fun part. I think we're going to create the product here. So we're getting the JSON response. If it's not in stock, we're still going to create the product because that's a valid thing for it to be. Like, that's not an error. That's just a state of it. In fact, right now, I'm not even going to worry about this part. Let's go get rid of this. Yeah, so instead, let's actually go like this. Product fetch. Okay, so just thinking about, okay, so here's where my brain is going. It's all going in a bunch of different directions. So I'm going to try and vocalize what I'm thinking here. So right now, this is just the product data helper. This is not the create product helper. So this should just fetch the data, and if there is any, just return it. We should worry about in stock kind of thing. So we'll have to figure out a way to get the in stock status, but we're not going to create the product in this class. We're going to do that in the Livewire component. So we're going to say something like this in stock JSON response. Yep. Now that, of course, that doesn't exist right now, so we'll add it. But one thing that I know from my Thok days is that we're also going to need the URL because there's going to have to be some parsing that we have to do to check the in-stock status, because there's a bunch of different Shopify type stores and they don't include they don't ever include the in-stock status in that JSON. So we're just going to have to go like this, in-stock URL. We're going to say function in stock or string URL. So here is it knows if a product is in stock. So we're going to create one's going to be called in stock. This one's going to be out of stock. And so for right now, we're just going to have to, we'll do the first version of the parsing, and we'll kind of work our way through other sites as we find them. View page source. And so I know this from my previous kind of investigations in here. So if we go application, JSON, I think it's LD. Is it not LD? Is it LD plus JSON? LD plus JSON. Yeah. So basically what we're looking for is the product and the within the in stock, within the offers, the availability is going to be this in stock. Now we are not going to be going at a variant level. One thing that we learned from the THOC project is that because of the combinatorics involved in all these different combinations of products that these sites can create, you end up with like thousands of products by trying to make an individual product. So what individual product from every combination of variant. So a variant in this case would be like, so you have a Stockholm Night with tactile switches and a Stockholm Night with silent linear switches, and then a Cupertino Silver with silent linear switches and a Cupertino Silver with the tactile switches. And so every time you add a different option, you end up with this explosion of different products that are incredibly difficult to keep track of. And so, and actually, let's just go to our tests here so we can write out some like to-do tests here. So just so I can get them on paper, and then we can worry about actually implementing them later. So it considers a product out of stock if even one of its variants is not in stock. Yep. Okay. And then it considers a product in stock. If all of its variants are in stock. Yeah. Because what this means is if so we might actually have to be tracking these, because otherwise we aren't going to be able to properly notify the people. So here's what I'm thinking is, let's say they're partially in stock, and let me find one that's kind of like that. Yeah. So they have three options here, right? And so we consider it out of stock. So we'll start checking if even one of them is out of stock. Should we? Okay, so here's an idea that I'm thinking of. No. Okay, so if we go to the variant, let's go view page source, LD plus JSON. Okay, actually, this will actually work kind of cool. So, okay, so here's what I'm thinking. If someone gives us a product page, so they just give us this, so just the product page with no variant, we will check the site, and we can return the list of variants because we can check out this LDJSON and we can see the offers because each of these is the variant. So you can see like this one has the variant blah, blah, blah. And this is, oh, of course it doesn't have a freaking name. Okay, so what if, again, just talking out loud here. If we go here, okay, so variants, we can look up the ID and get the variant name. So that's going to be, so there's induction coil, shockwave, and HE module, induction coil, shockwave, HE module. And sorry, I'll make that bigger. So sorry. So we'll look up the variant by their ID on the JSON, and we'll say induction coil, shockwave, or HE module. And this way we will, and then we can use that the LDJSON because each offer should have its own URL that we can then store as the product to be notified on. Now, what I'm curious about is there a like, let's say there's a product that doesn't have any variants. What happens then? What do we get? Is there just a single variant or, okay, yeah. So it's still got a variant. There's just a single one of base, for example. And so if we go to this, okay, that's going to have a bunch. Universal dots. Okay, yeah. So each product, if it has at least one variant that we can rely on. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to say, let's go back here for a second. So if it knows if a product's in stock, we're going to ignore that for a second. So we're going to say it displays, it returns a list of variants if the product URL does not contain the variant ID. Okay. What else? It returns a list of variants if the product URL does not contain the variant ID. And then actually, returns a list of variants if the product URL does not contain the variant ID. Yes. And so how do we want to do this? So we actually don't want to add the Shopify products at this point because, for example, this one is the variant isn't even given. So this test actually shouldn't pass because, curious how that's passed. Because we're not actually doing anything right now with it, right? Okay, so if we go, you can only add Shopify products. So because this one doesn't have a variant ID, it shouldn't create a product. Actually, let's not break this test. Let's make this a variant equals 1, 2, 3. Sure. And then change this back to 1. And I just want to make sure manage products. Right. Okay. So we're not doing any actual looking up there. Okay. So this should still pass. Okay. So we want to say it does not create a product if the variant ID is not provided. paste that, get rid of that. Yep. Okay, so this is going to fail because right now it is going to create a product, right? Because we're not actually checking that. So if we go into manage products, right now, yeah, it's add product is just doing the thing, right? So this is where we can start doing some validation. And so let's take a look at Laravel's validation stuff. Laravel validation. Because there are helpers that we should be able to use, like doesn't end with or something. So let's go like this. Where are all the rules? Apologize. Okay, so ends with. Okay, pardon me. Field under validation must end with one of the given values. So we should, and I forget how to do Livewire validation, so give me 1 second. Livewire validation. Real time. Validation. Real time validation. Okay, so by using validate directly on the Livewire properties, anytime network request is sent to blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we're going to create a property called public string URL. And we are going to validate. Now, does it have to be inline? Okay, so there's a separate rules property. Oh, okay, so we can do, okay, so we can say it's going to be required. Okay. And validate. So we want to say ends with. Oh no, we want it to have to be contains because it won't. We won't know the variant actual ID, but we can say contains a. Oh, that sucks. Is there? Oh, that sucks. str contains maybe string. No, that's not what we want. I mean, we can do a regex. It's not my favorite way to do this, but I am shocked that there is not a contains in here. That really surprises me. Okay, between boolean confirm, blah, 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 date. No, I'm not seeing anything. Okay, so we'll just have to say, we're going to choose one of these and then we're going to get rid of almost all of it. So we're going to say, let's get rid of that. What's the formatting here? Just, okay. Regex, so we don't care about anything at the beginning of the string. We want it to have variant equals. And actually, no, we don't even want to validate that because if it's not a URL, okay, so that was a waste of time because we want to allow them to not we want to allow them to paste the URL that does not include the variant, because if it does not include the variant, then we will show a picker of some kind to let them pick which variant they want. So let's go like paste. It should be a URL. So we don't need to take that anymore. What we will do is we will say this URL. Let's go back to our product, manage product tests. And so we're going to say call add product. Call okay, so that still works. However, now that it's extracted to this public property, we can start doing our check to say, so when they click the add product button, for example, what we want to do is we want to say if not if not this is variant URL, we are going to just create this. Pardon me. So we want to this populate variants. So yeah, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to check if it's a variant URL. Otherwise, we'll create the product. So now we can paste that in there. Okay, so this is going to fail because these methods don't exist. So we're just going to say public. You know what? Let's write some tests first. It can determine whether the URL is a variant. Yep. And then it can populate the variants array if the URL is not a variant. And so what I'm thinking here, and I'm going to make this a to-do. So this, oops, let's just close this because we're not going to be dealing with that for a bit. We're not going to be dealing with that for a bit. Let's go to our manage products. So this really should be variant data. And so what we're basically going to do is we're going to say, if you give us a URL that already has a variant, like if it is a known variant, we're just going to assume you know what you're talking about and just allow you to set it. And so that's when it's just going to basically create the product. Now there's more to the else that we're going to be changing here, but like the flow is, if you just give us the product URL, and actually let's make that, if this is base product URL, then what we want to do is we want to say, okay, so we have this base product. We want to get the variant data and populate the variant data. So populate variant data from that base product. Otherwise, you've already given us the variant, so we're just going to create it as you wish, kind of thing. Okay, so what are we going to do here? We're going to say okay, is base product URL is the base product or a specific variant. We're going to say, so Livewire test manage products. Yep. We're going to say set URL. We're just going to make this really dumb. We're just going to say set URL to Shopify store products. Yep. Assert I'm going to call is base product URL. Assert. Is there no way to do this? Because we basically want to say something like assert true, but I don't think this is going to work. I don't think that's a valid. Unable to call public method. Okay, well, we'll add the public method. I still don't think this is going to work, but that's okay. Is base product URL. It's going to return a bool. And we're going to return again TDD. We're just going to return true for now until we get to the point where we need to. Yeah, assert true does not exist. That's what I figured. Okay, so call is base product URL. Okay, I guess we're going to have to do this the old-fashioned way. So we're going to say products equals new manage products. Products URL equals so now we're going to say products is base product URL. And actually, we don't want that. We want to expect product is base product URL to be true. Okay, so this should pass now, yeah. But the second we add some more logic here, like if we say, let's group that together, and then we're going to say product URL, expect. This is going to fail because we're hard coding the response to be false. Or sorry, hard coding the response to be true. So now we have to implement the logic. So we're going to say return. We're going to use a string helper. Contains this URL, and then we want to look for this string variant equals. So if it doesn't have that, it's a base product. Otherwise, it's the variant. So now this should pass. Field starting with false is true. Let's just okay, so it is false. Manage products. Oh, dir. Return. Yeah. Right, because it's if it doesn't contain variant, then it's the base product URL. Okay, so this should pass. Good. Okay, so now we know whether it's a specific variant or not. If it's not a, so it can populate the variant array if the URL is not a variant. So now we want to say expect, basically like copy this for now. It's not all we're going to do, but let's just start with this. So we can get rid of those first ones because we don't care about them. We just want the variant type URL. So we want to say if a variant, actually, yeah, we want that. If it's not a variant, we want to expect that products, variant data, not to be empty. Okay, so again, this is gonna, oh, right, it's to do, so let's just go like this. Okay, so it's still gonna fail because it's empty right now. We're not putting anything in there, right? So if we go manage products, so populate variant data is the next thing we gotta do. So we're gonna say function populate variant data, yes. So it's just gonna return a void. We don't need to actually return any data. We're just gonna do something in here. And so this is where we will do some fun stuff with the actual fetching of the data. So let's go to our Shopify product data. And so I think what we want to do really is, so we want to fetch what I'm kind of thinking about is I'm just trying to think of like the right way to word this. So right now we're in the namespace of Shopify. The class is currently called product data and the function is called fetch. So the way you would read this is like the Shopify product data is being fetched. Like this is how in English I would think to read that. And it seems kind of clunky. So what I think we want to do is rename some of this stuff here, but I'm just trying to think of the best way to do it here. I'm just going to minimize that for now, because there's got to be a more kind of like eloquent way to write that, just in English, right? So we want to I guess technically you can read it backwards, and we want to fetch product data from Shopify, which technically is a proper grammar. But what I'm thinking about here is like I want to use this class for both fetching the product and fetching the variant, or even if we should, right? Like, in fact, So the product data let us variant data.php PHP, and we will say namespace app Shopify class variant data. That is absolutely not what I wanted. Class variant data. No, I don't want all that stuff. And so what I'm thinking here is, so the product data is kind of our base of checking the product, but we shouldn't actually be returning this stuff. We should just be returning the, what do we want the product to return? Again, how do we want to do this? Product data should just return information about the product. So products can't be in stock, variants are. Check for product data. So the name. Hell, we could call the variants. Let's go back to our JSON data here for a second. Product variants, yeah. Oh my goodness. Stupid tabs. Populate variant data. So we want to say product equals product data new product data, and we want to product data equals product fetch this URL. Yep. And then actually I guess we can just say like this variant data. Populate variant data. So if we go to variant, let's just go back to our test here. Expecting brackets to not be empty. Okay, so let's go figure out why that is. Product data fetch. products 29. Oh. Okay, so we're not even getting here. So populate variant data. Oh. Yeah, it's not even hitting that. So if this is base product URL, why is that not in this one? So it's not even checking. New manage products. Oh, right. Because we're not trying to add a product. So now it's true. We can get rid of this. Okay, now it's stopping in the right spot. Good. Able to get locally. Right, okay, because we're not faking it right now. So let's do that. Product test. Where manage products test. I don't remember. No. Shopify product data test. This whole thing, if I can learn how to use the mouse. Cool. There's the variants that we care about. And so now if we close out of here, get rid of this, this test should pass. Cool. Does not create a product that the variant ID is pro. Public string. Right. I wonder, I'm just thinking if we should be testing this in a live wire-y way by doing something like this. So set that, call add product, and then assert set, yeah, variant data. So right now we don't really care what's in there. We just want to make sure that there's something there. Oh, it's going to force us to actually check the exact data. All right. Let's just dump it out so we can copy and paste it. Variant data. I wonder if there's a assert. Assert. There's no like is set. That's unfortunate because I don't really care about what's in there right now. I mean, eventually we should, but for right now, it's not super important. It's more just like making sure that something is in there. I think for right now, what we will do is we will do that. Just to make it clear what we're really testing here. Because at first it should be empty, and then add product should put things in there. So if we add this, yeah, okay. Okay, so it can populate the variant data array if the URL is not a variant. Okay. So now, if the product is, okay. So we now have the variants. Is this really adding product? I don't think it is. Because right now we are okay, so my head is getting kind of twisted here about how we want to do this. So like if they've tried to, like if they've pressed the add product button and the URL that they've given us is basically not a correct URL, we want to populate some variant data. Otherwise, if it is the variant, we want to create product. So this we're going to delete momentarily. So yes, that's fine. Product create this URL. So really what now we need to do is we need to fetch the variant data. So we have this, this data in our variant data that we can then use to create. How do we want to do this? Because we're still going to have to fetch the data. Oh my goodness, my brain is going crazy here. What do we have here? So we've This is where we want to do the fetch. Nope. Okay. I think I'm going to take a break here and come back to this maybe tomorrow to continue working on this. I just my my brain is not there. There's something missing here, and I know that there's the people watching probably are seeing that this is wrong in so many different ways, and so I just need to take a step back here for a bit and 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 ponder. If you have comments, feel free to leave them in the comments. But yeah, and I do read all of them. But yeah, so I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to come back to this tomorrow, and I'm going to make some notes this evening about how we should be structuring this a little better, because I know this is not good right now. This has gone a little deeper than what I originally intended. These variants are kind of messing with me. So yeah, we'll come back to this tomorrow. I'll kind of talk about my notes and yeah. So let's say write a bunch of tests like so. This can just make like this. Just to make notes of what we've already done here and what we haven't. Okay, so what do we got? We got right yeah, done that. Check if it's a Spotify or Shopify site. Yep. And actually, let's even be more explicit because some of these things are not done. So we're checking for that. We're checking for but we're not caching requests yet. So the rest of the stuff we still have to do. So I mean, we made good progress for a brand new site that I've only started 2 hours ago at the beginning of the stream. I think we're making a lot of good progress. But yeah, we'll come back tomorrow, continue working on this, and see how far we can get. So if you haven't already, on you, if you could follow me on YouTube at youtube.com/@nextday_dev, you can see at the bottom here. If you can follow me at twitch.tv/nextday, I appreciate it. And I will be back tomorrow with another stream, probably for another couple hours before I go to yoga. And we will continue hacking on this until we have something a little more intelligent, because right now it's just kind of a mess. So yeah, thanks for joining. I really appreciate it. And I will talk to you tomorrow. Later.